Look who's back, like he never left. The best show of the best shows has officially returned. Bigger, better, and much more athletic. For Canon's sake is officially back. With no-nonsense commentary on entertainment, politics, and whatever else we want. And now, for your host, the frontman of Backwards and founder of the Rippaverse, Mr. Eric July.
What's up, everybody? What's up? Hope you're all doing well. I do appreciate y'all joining us live for another episode of For Canon's Sake. This is going to be a good episode, a special one that we have, of course, planned with a very special guest. I want to give a shout out to everybody, as usual, that comes through, shows a lot of love, whether you're watching us live over at youtube.com/YoungRipper59, or you listen to us after the fact over at forcanonsake.com or wherever you listen to your podcast. We do appreciate you. Okay, so before we get really diving into the show, I got a couple of things that I'd like to discuss, mainly because we had a massive announcement yesterday, and this is really the first show. I didn't try to line it up like this, but this is the first show since that announcement, so it gives me an opportunity to kind of expand, touch on some things and whatnot. Again, I'm your host, Eric July, host of For Canon's Sake, but let's talk. So the other day, you guys, it was yesterday. What the fuck am I talking about? Other day. So yesterday we announced finally Rippaverse, and I will pull this up real quick for you guys. If you go to Rippaverse.com, you could see everything that I am about to show you here. There's a video where I go through all of what we have planned with this, what this project is, but I will expand on it here in a little bit. So we've been asked a million times, what is, okay, we have this infrastructure that we've built with ISOM 1, and is this something that we would offer to, like, outside creators, people that are not really creating for the Rippaverse? So whether it be independently, publishing other people's things. And I would always say, I mean, this has been asked of us since ISOM 1, like every other stream. And I always say, well, publishing things for the Rippaverse, as far as the universe is concerned, it's not going to make a lot of sense. However, I've pondered on the idea of maybe doing something that is helping and going to assist some other creatives and have them take advantage of it, specifically in the aspect of, like, fulfillment, because I know that can be a little bit of a drag. It's not easy, number one. And with a lot of creative people, they much rather just create. So we pondered on it for a very long time, wanted to make sure that we got our ducks in the row first, making sure we're good to go, something that we can handle if we're going to actually commit to this. What does it look like? And we still have some things that we're going to do with regard to Rippaverse. But now we officially, we have launched at Rippaverse.com. This is, we do 5 things as listed right here. We have, of course, our general consulting, people that want some help, advice, with either a campaign that they have, a book, anything. We can help you guys out in whatever way that you need. We have fulfillment. That's a big one. You guys know how we are with fulfillment. We're always on our stuff. We do, do things in a timely manner, and we make sure that you get the product in good condition. Of course, we have our campaign hosting that we're going to, you've seen our campaigns. We run that stuff on our own service. You're going to be able to take advantage of that. That goes as well as general stores. So if you're not doing a campaign, you just want to sell an item, of course, we got you. And, of course, the big one, which I know a lot of people are attracted to, is this whole publishing thing. And though we're not, I think it just limits us so much, because you look at how things are done traditionally, definitely with the direct market. Publishing, we're doing a lot more than that. What we try to do, or what we are trying to do, is assist people that want to sell direct to customer. Obviously, that's the main thing that we have here. And we will be, by literal definition, of course, publishing your work and everything that comes with it. But we want you to let your wings fly. For sure, it's not going to be for everybody, and not everybody that goes through Rippaverse will be on it forever. We recognize that that's kind of the point, right? It's really to use what we've learned over the years and give a lot of you guys access to that. So I appreciate the feedback's been crazy. You guys know that we announced that our first creator that you guys know about. There's others that I haven't announced yet. But Jay, you know him as Drunk 3PO, Achromatic Chronicles Green, which is the follow-up to Achromatic Chronicles Blue, which is $100,000+ successful campaign that he ran will be published through us, through Rippaverse. I can't wait to give you some more information, and that is going to happen later this year. So be on the lookout for that and everything Rippaverse. So just wanted to give you guys some news updates on that, and then if you guys got some questions, again, go to rippaverse.com. We got you taken care of there. Without further ado, though, I need to get into the guest here. We have a very special guest. We've had him on the show before. I streamed with them a few different times. It's always a wonderful time. These are always some really highly anticipated streams. You guys love us shooting the shit. And, of course, I had to welcome back, definitely with this new format that we have here, where you guys are going to get a lot of information. That's the whole approach here, to really be, instead of just blabbing on about random things, we want to make sure that you learn more about our guests and their positions and all of that. So, as I said, without further ado, let me welcome my guest. Lee Raise Fist, man. What's up, bro? How you doing?
How's it going? What's up? I feel like I need to go find a Zippo and shout "Free Palestine." I don't know. This is the only way you can get attention on the internet these days. I don't know.
Just light yourself on fire, man. It works every time. 100%. 100% of the time, it does work. That's for sure. No, man. Again, I appreciate you coming on the show and joining us, man. You know I love to shoot the shit with you, man. You're one of my favorite guests to have, because I know we relate on so many different aspects, not just with like obviously some of the political stuff, but you know, this just music and everything, man. It's always fun.
Yeah, we go to the same San Francisco bathhouses. You know, we know the same code.
You know, the usual, man. You know, the usual. Nothing out the ordinary, anything like that. You know how we rock. But yeah, man, I have to ask to kind of start us off. You know, we last discussed Iron Age has been a really, I mean, I've been as motivated as I have ever been, just with every new thing it is that we do and every new thing that I see other people have done. And since the last time that we've talked, we've seen a lot of cool things happening with people independently, folks that are in our space, folks that we know, including, of course, yourself. How do you feel since the last time that we talk about kind of this future, and maybe we are still on the brink, maybe we're still at the beginning stages, but maybe we are on the brink of this sort of more creative renaissance where people are just taking advantage of the independence and creating on their own. So how do you feel about it since the last time we talked? Are you feeling great? You think that we're moving in a good spot? Where you at with it?
Yeah, I am. It's cool too to see like some infrastructure be built. Obviously, you're doing some of that, but like that's more than anything, that's what I'm excited about. There's always independent projects, right? When I worked in a comic store, there was always some Helvet Bedeck sped walking in with his manga drawings, like, "Hey, I'm gonna publish my own comic," and that was 20 plus years ago, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's always got a comic to hawk. We always knew that creativity would be there. What's unique about what I just labeled the Iron Age, just because I was observing it, I was like, okay, something like more is happening here, is that it's sort of like unencumbered and people are beginning to build their own media apparatuses like around talking about it, which is unique, right? There's been independent movements that haven't even had that. Like even the black and white comics revolution of the late 80s didn't really have that so much. There were zines a little bit,
Right.
but we're already getting more established, like websites and magazines and stuff like, you know, Anvil, the Iron Age magazine,
Shout
and
out.
stuff like that, that's actually like talking about this stuff, not just talking about it, but actually publishing
Right.
some of it, which I think is boss, dude. That's what I wanted to see. You don't like, if you're independently creating, okay, you got independent creation. Once you have a media and like a fan base that's actually talking about it and getting passionate about the projects themselves and actually covering it, now you're getting the beginnings of like an actual movement, which that is just bitching beyond belief.
Yeah, and it's, again, I'm having a blast. I mean, I see all these other people see success doing their own independent thing. And yeah, it does feel a little different. Obviously, what's happening right now isn't the first time that there's been independent creatives that have seen some level of success. But I think we're starting to see people catch up with the times. The technology obviously has changed, and it's a weapon that a lot of folks didn't have at their disposal 20, 30 years ago, just with internet, social media, the way that people are able to do even simple things like crowdfunding. That just completely just changed the game.
Or you were talking about fulfillment earlier, dude. You like Ninja Turtles too, right? Like I'm a big Ninja Turtles mark. And they had to individually sell their comics to individual comic shops back in the day. They had to walk in the door and just be like, all right, you can have this many for this much, and this is our cut, right?
Yeah.
That's how they had to do it in the beginning. All those walls have been knocked down by the internet. What's interesting, I think, and probably distinguishes this Iron Age right now, or whatever you want to call it, that's just what I pulled out of my ass in the middle of that video. What's unique about it is now I think it's the first one that's happened really since the internet was established in the way that it is now. With the confluence of all the factors, social media, print on demand, all the different things, crowdfunding that are kind of it's the first big independent movement since the advent of all of those things. Which is gonna be wild to see how that changes it. You can already see how different it is from when someone made an independent comic back in the day, right? Okay, I worked in a comic shop, for example. I'll give a shout out to a guy I used to work with him, Jeff Pena. He does a comic called Dr. Oblivion's Guide to Dating My Teenage Daughter. It's about a supervillain who has a teenage daughter who's now she's starting dating, so he's like, protective of his daughter, but he's also like Dr. Doom. It's really good, but he came out in like the early 2000s with that. He had none of the facilitatory sort of machinery that's actually going to be able to sell. He didn't have a lot of social media and MySpace. He didn't have it. Now we've got so many different avenues to get that out there. If he had launched that now, and it's pretty successful on its own, by the way, he goes to all the comic conventions and stuff, but like it would have been huge. So that's the big difference that I see. I've seen the before and after photo, and you have to be on your game though, as you well know. Like you have to be on your game, and you have to be on top of the business side too. You get a lot of freedom, but you get a lot of responsibility at the same time.
More than anything. And I think that's obviously, that's what we're trying to do. What we're saying is assist those that may not have that eye, because I don't think that's particularly a knock to someone if they don't have that eye or that more business bone in their body. But we looked at the market and we was like, oh, this is a way that we can kind of assist people there, because to your point, when you are doing things independently, you're doing everything. The book really does stop with you, so there can for sure be some things and I think that's what we're finding out as people figure out these creative ways to do things. You try to tailor make that experience not just for your customers, but hell, for yourself. And that's been one of the coolest things that I've seen, is that you're getting the way that I worded it is it's almost akin to, and I'm using just it more as a general term when I say like Wild Wild West. And what I'm meaning by that is that there is no standard anymore, right? I've complained about this whole direct market setup as an example, and it never made any sense economically to me.
No. It was the most you and I. You got your soul poster back there. We all know about artificial monopolies. We know monopolies really can't exist long term without some kind of artificial imposition.
Facts.
And dude, Diamond Distribution was a classic example of that, like purely coercive monopoly.
Yep.
And I worked on the comic shop side, and I saw it. They were terrible. It got to the point where Marvel had their own previews magazine that they were putting out just because Diamond was so bad, but they still had to use them. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Everyone had a gun to their head. Yeah. So no, you're preaching to the choir, dude.
Yeah. And like, with that standard kind of, people are starting to phase out of it. We're seeing it. It's not even just with like the Diamond situation breaking up, and you have there's two other major players with like Lunar and Penguin Random House that are now major in that. But even with like just the element of not just like with crowdfunding, that's one aspect of it, but there's others, and we're starting to see all of these different creatives or business folk that are trying different things, because really there is no standard anymore. It's like what makes the most sense for your customers, and what makes the most sense for what it is that you are trying to do. Because I've said a million times, like how I did it, forking over the cash and having like hundreds of thousands of dollars to invest in a company, that was my way of doing it. That's not necessarily something that needs to get replicated by everybody else, but that's, I think, that fundamentally speaks to how things have changed so much, because that option is there, right? The fact that I can even do that is there. And the fact that someone else can also see a lot of success while doing something a tad bit different, that's, I think, what really speaks to how things have changed so much in this day and age, and how we are creating. So I'm very inspired. This is why I say I'm motivated when I go see these. I see folks like yourself, seeing the level of success that you have. I've seen people that are, obviously we just brought on Jay, but seeing what he did with even like, we're talking completely different genres. He did an all ages book, man. And he made 100,000 plus on his thing doing his own. So it's very cool to see. I'm as inspired as I've ever been, and it's going to be, in the next couple of years, I think, really fun as people start to kind of find their footing and figure out what makes the most sense for them and how they're trying to create. Because because
you'll get no help. I said in my original Iron Age video, you get no help from the industry. You got to be twice as good to get half the credit.
That's good.
And
that's true.
Not just from the mainstream, sometimes just from other people, because they expect a certain standard from this company or that company, right? You gotta be twice as good for half the credit. It's funny. I think we talked about this last time we were on with each other, but half the reason all these creatives, it's not so much that their ideologues over at Marvel and DC get so cranky on social media, right, about this guy or that guy. Mark Waid saying he'd rather burn the industry down and let anyone write of Chairman Mao have a job. And it's job security. That's what it is. It's just it's an industry where basically every career is a game of musical chairs. There's like 15 chairs left because the industry has shrunk so much. So they got to protect the existing jobs. You're gonna get no aid from them at all. And how hilarious is it, by the way, that like the comic industry is about the only instance where leftists believe that walls actually work. At this point, seriously, bro.
It's hilarious, man, and it's cool because that's what I think as just where I'm at from what I advocate from an economic perspective. Seeing true independence and what that actually means, and seeing people like it's not one, and that's something that I've been trying to emphasize for a very long time. And I tried to do it with music. A lot of people didn't listen to me there, for sure. And now we're at a different age, and it's cool to see this happening now, where it's like, bros, it is not one way to do anything. Definitely with the growth of technology alone and the internet, it is no longer one way to do anything. Yes, there's things that work, there's things that don't work, but to act like it's just one way to do it just because the industry has determined that this is the standard, that's bullshit. And I think people now are finding out how bullshit it was, and you're starting to see all of these different creative things be done over the last years, and you're going to see it going into the future, which kind of, again, brings me to my next point. Like, you had on the front end of this stuff, you had like that, what you're doing with the Night Vale series.
I kind of did both sides.
Right.
On Night Vale, on Long Moonlight and Death Mask, I went with a publisher.
Right.
And we did kind of the standard thing. Okay, split 50-50, blah, blah, blah. We do the standard publisher thing, all of that. So I got to see it from that side. And that has its advantages.
Absolutely.
By the way.
It makes sense for certain people.
Worry about on certain things. They handle a lot of stuff that you don't have to worry about. But they also let you be as hands-on as you want, which is nice. Yeah, that's nice too. It gives you some nice flexibility. Plus, I knew the guy who ran the publisher, so that helps. But then I also was kind of, I was baptized into crowdfunding. I hadn't been a big fan of crowdfunding. I've always understood why people do it. It makes sense to sell directly to your customers, but it just, I don't know, something about it, I just never felt comfortable with it. But George Alexopoulos, who's done some superb work illustrating the book. He had already done crowdfunding campaigns. You mentioned the all ages book. This is a classic example. He did an all ages, like a children's book, right before this on Indiegogo. So he was experienced with it. So I was like, all right, so if you can handle it, we're good. He's like, done. Right. So he's handling all the fulfillment, and I get to kind of just concentrate on writing, designing. I do a little bit of the art and things like that. So I get to like focus on actually putting the thing together, which is exactly where I want to be.
Yeah, ain't nothing wrong with that. And I guess it's a good time to segue into that, because I would love to discuss it more. Obviously, this is going to be what I'm about to show you guys here. We talked about this. We talked about this last time. Ghost of Badlands. I'm going to show you guys some art here in a little bit. You guys are going to love it. But with that being said, I have to ask, just what has been your experience with this? I mean, you guys, nearly $350,000 is a massively successful crowdfunding campaign with you and George. So if you could, just for the audience, maybe that they may have been living on the rock, they don't know much about this, can you give us some more information on the campaign that you ran itself, as well as the stage that it's at now, because you guys, I know, are near completion with inks?
Yeah, we're like two pages away or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's literally, by the end of the week, this thing's going to be done, and we're going to be able to go to print and stuff. Obviously we're going to go back and have like a redraw phase on certain panels and all the standard stuff that you do with comics. But yeah, it was crazy. Like, I had never done a crowdfunding thing, and this thing blew up. I cut it off. We probably could have done twice as much.
Oh yeah,
in
for
terms
sure.
of raising
Absolutely.
money as we did, but I cut it off because I was like, as soon as we can, I want to get working on this.
Yeah.
Like, I want to get it going, and plus I kind of wanted people to know my word is my bond. When
Makes sense.
the thing's done, it's done.
Yeah.
And if you want to get in on it, well, next time don't miss the campaign, right? That's kind of the way I looked at it. They got to be able to trust that what you say is going to happen.
For sure.
So I cut it off early. I mean, it blew up. I have nothing to complain about there. But yeah, it just seemed to strike a note. I think people are ready for Westerns.
Yeah.
I've said before, like 2024 is starting to feel like the year of the Western a little bit. There's Martin Scorsese is making a Western.
Yeah.
Ridley Scott's making a Western. Christian Bale's starring in Westerns. Tom Cruise about to star in a Western. Like, everybody's making Westerns all of a sudden. And of course, the big Kevin Costner epic Horizon that they're working on. So we kind of struck before the iron was hot.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes, if people are digging it. But I kind of future-proofed it a little bit because I wanted it to be a different kind of Western. I didn't want it to be the standard, just, cowboys, bandits, Indians, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Although those wonderful things are in the comic. But I wanted to bring back that kind of goosebumps and chills feeling that you get when you see Clint Eastwood ride out of the high desert in High Plains Drifter, or something like that, like Pale Rider when he rides out of the Smoky Mountains. That kind of elemental sort of thing, where the Old West is almost like an analog for Original Sin or something.
Yeah.
So we kind of steered into that. It's a gothic Western. It's an elemental sort of divine retribution Western. And it's just this side of a Christian comic.
Yeah.
It's heavy religious themes.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's what's up. And again, I remember when this popped off, it was cool to see you and George teaming up on this project, and being able to, see the enthusiasm for something that, we know that a lot of the superhero stuff has been what has people, they lean towards that. And this is a different genre, right? That it is that you're doing, but it's seeing a lot of success. So it shows that people are, of course, still thirsty for comics, and it doesn't necessarily need to be or have to be a specific genre that is going to be what sees a lot of success. So when you saw this exploded in the way that it did, was it one of those things where you're like, okay, well, I need to get to doing more of these types of graphic novels, whether it be of any genre? Is it something that you want to really just keeping on with and really keep creating and publishing?
Yeah, I mean, I immediately got inspired in the first wave of writing this thing. So the second volume, if this one does well enough when it launches, it looks like it's going to do pretty well. Then second volume's already written.
Oh, beautiful.
And I'm ready to go on through. And the second volume's longer than the first one, which, by the way, the first one's no slouch. It's 104 pages. It's
this is a big book.
Big old book. Yeah. So, and the second one is so George expands my scripts. So we started out on this one with 65 pages. He blew that up to 104 because he likes to give the story room to breathe, which is exactly the right thing for a comic artist to do.
That's what they're supposed to do. Yeah.
I should mention, by the way, I started out being a comic book artist, not a writer. So I kind of write it that way. Like I write it in a way where it's like, okay, I let them fill in the blanks they need to, because comics should be driven from the art end, in my opinion, not the writing end so much. That's an inversion of American comics, by the way. They don't work that way anymore. The writers are dictators.
Yeah,
and the artists are basically slaves. So yeah, I kind of looked at that, and the new one is like 86, almost 90 pages written.
So that means it's going to be a massive book once George
probably
gets his hands on it.
Probably it'll be a little bit longer, but we'll see. There might be some stuff that gets cut out, but yeah, definitely more Ghost of the Badlands for sure. Because I looked at this kind of like approached it sort of like an old pulp, kind of like Night Vale, like I did with Night Vale, where every single one is its own self-contained story, but slowly over time we move the overarching narrative forward as we do that. So every volume's got a beginning, middle, and end, but the characters change by the end, and we get to see them evolve as time goes on. The same way pulps were written back in the 30s and 40s.
Makes sense. So yeah, again, it's been really cool to see this explode in the way that it did, and I'm really proud to hear, or glad to hear, that you are going to be continuing on. How has it been working with, George? Man, this guy is such a underrated, even though, he gets a lot of respect. He does those little comic strips and people love him for it. But man, his range and how he's able to do things, man. How has it been like working with such a talented artist like him?
Yeah, it was wild. I forget even exactly how we came into contact with each other, but he wound up illustrating Death Mask, my second book. And he did an unbelievable job. If you want to see him really in effect, go pick up that book, because it's got a lot of illustrations by him, and they're awesome. And when I was working with him, he had seen my art style, because I did some illustrations in the first book, and I did a few in the second. And he was like, and so I kind of gave him an idea of, okay, it's sort of a crosshatchy kind of a pulp thing. That's sort of what my style looks like. And so he kind of took a little bit of that. He still draws like himself,
right? But
he took a little bit of that style, and he just kind of created this sort of look. And I thought it looked awesome, and I think he did too.
Yeah.
And it turned into basically the style that he's doing here in Ghost of the Badlands. The guy's just shockingly talented, and I say this is a comic artist. The guy's freaking bang on. So I could have drawn, like I said, I could have drawn this if I had lots and lots of time to do this, but I love collaborating, and he's just shockingly, stunningly talented.
Again, man, it's I think that's another cool thing that's been happening in our space. I was on with Dan, and we talked. It was somebody that super chatted us, and was talking about this.
Did you have his life partner on with him?
He's not gonna ever get away from that. But no, we talked. It was some lovely lady. She super chatted us, letting us know that, out of meeting Dan and then kind of finding and kind of falling in favor with the rest of the space, she had also found Lady Desiree, who, shout out to her. And now they're collaborating on a project. She's a very talented musician. And I was like, that's been one of the cooler things that's happened in our space, is being able to see the collaborative stuff. Like we meet each other, we click on all cylinders, and sometimes, hell, oftentimes, it has nothing to do with the thing that you're creating, right? It's like, oh, okay, we connect on a different level, and you happen to be into that, I happen to be into this. Why don't we collaborate and do something creatively? It's been very cool to see that happen in our space time and time again. And again, I do think that's the way of the future. The audience seems to be responding to stuff like this, and I really think a lot of it has to do with, so much of this is happening organically. And the audience, customers, these guys are smart. They can pick up on that. They know when you got your foot in a project where you actually have some sort of passion in it and care about it. And that's what these alternative sort of methods have allowed us to do, to get out there and be ourselves, create, collaborate, and come up with these final projects that
stop, collaborate, and listen.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Bringing back the ice, but no, I love that.
Shout
part.
out Vanilla
And
Ice.
it's dude, it's how things used to be made.
Yeah.
Right? Not always in American comics, but back in the 70s, 80s, whatever, an artist and a writer could kind of bump into each other. Hey, we should really work on a thing. It might wind up having to be a creator-owned thing, might have wound up having to be on Vertigo or something. That doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. Unless, of course, you're an ism and ist, you know what I mean? Then whatever. But now it's like, you got a checklist. Okay, we got to have X number of whatevers, right? We got to have X number of Latinos, whatever. And it's gotten to the point of high comedy. In the early aughts, I remember, as I'm sure you do, the cause célèbre was butt sex Americans, shall we call them. And Brian K. Vaughan, do you remember Brian K. Vaughan when he jumped on Ultimate X-Men?
Yes.
It was replete with gay agitprop. You know, Colossus had a craven for cock all of a sudden, and it was like I don't understand. By the way, anyone else reading anything into the fact that Brian K. Vaughan made the only communist on the X-Men a Mo? Anyone? But no, like that's the classic example. It's like they had a checklist.
Yeah.
And okay, at a certain point we got to get to this. At a certain point we got to get to this. And storyline, they fell by the wayside. Natural collaborative effort fell by the wayside. Two people having a mutual interest. This is literally how Ghost of the Badlands happened, by the way.
Yeah.
Was I had been posting tweets or I had made a video about Westerns. Why Westerns matter. That was the video. And George saw it and it inspired him and he wanted to do a Western. And we wound up just DMing each other. He got bit by the Western bug. I got bit by the Western bug. And somehow it was like he was between projects and he was like, okay, it's now or never. We got to shit or get off the pot. And I was like, okay, fine. I'll shoot out a script. And that's how this happened. That's the natural way for these things to happen. That isn't allowed. That isn't permitted to happen in the American comic industry, at least not at the big two.
Oh, no. Not even close. And, you know, you bring up collaboration and how people are able to, exist outside of that framework, maybe of the big two. I would love to get your position on like what we're starting to see the shift again going into independence. You're starting to see people that are on the front half of their creative careers that are seeing a lot of success early on. And that makes some people in the mainstream obviously feel some kind of way because they went through they were churned through whatever machine, right? And I think that's actually part of the lash out with a lot of these guys is that, they did XYZ to get into position, maybe had to kiss a whole lot of ass, maybe had to sell a soul here or parts of it here and there. And then anything that exists outside of it, well, you got the Mark Wades of the world wanting to burn it down. You got Tim Sheridan and Alan Scott being gay and how, hey, I'm going to get on camera and tell you that you got to go buy this to go take it to these guys. And it's like, what is this? And I do believe that they're on the tail fucking end. The guys that work within the mainstream are on the tail end of whatever the hell that's going to look like. I'm not sure their publications have ever made money for that matter, but to really see the position that they're in right now, especially with where Disney's at, where Warner's at, it feels like at any given day they could say we're done with this. We're going to license it out to somebody, and pretty much all of y'all are gone. So, do you think that's also part of the lash out? Like they're at least smart enough to recognize that this is their sugar daddy, right? If this thing goes away, there might not be a spot on the other side for them.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure you get this vibe. I've been getting this vibe for some time, with the news about the layoffs at WB and the drama with them in DC and certainly the stuff that's been going down with Disney. I get the feeling like in a very short order, like 5 to 10 years, DC and Marvel are largely going to be relegated to an IP piggy bank.
Yeah.
They're not really going to be, hey, buy the new. There will probably still be Spider-Man comics in some form or fashion. There will probably still be Superman comics in some form or fashion. You can probably wave goodbye to the Moon Knights of the world. You can probably wave goodbye to the, Plastic Man. I don't think will have an ongoing. but I think for the most part, they're just going to use them to apply those characters to other media. The problem, of course, with that is the movies suck, and so do the cartoons, and so do the video games.
That's true.
Like, what are you gonna license these out to? Like lunch boxes? That's it. You're getting down to the bone here. I don't see this working long term, even from an IP standpoint.
Yeah, they're in a weird spot, and I think they're all starting to see it. And it's gonna. This is why it may get worse for them before it gets better. When I say worse, I mean in terms of how they lash out and who they make it out to be the enemy. Like your point that you made earlier, like we have to be to even get the credit. We have to be just, firing. On all cylinders. And I could see them trying to. I've experienced this. Other people have experienced this as well. Delegitimizing all of the efforts of these people that exist outside this independent stuff. I was, I do the math myself. I go look at these sales. Remember the CNICV2? It's hard to find some of these sales, so you have to go to these kind of point of sale data to try to figure out where these numbers are. And I look at something like an ISOM or even an Alpha and I'm like, these are outselling their graphic novels like right now, like as of like quite literally right now. Of course, we don't have any other coverage or any of that happening, and right. But it's still performing competitively with these guys.
And what's the page count on ISOM?
Exactly, like 96 pages, right? So ISOM 2 is 112, right?
Okay, so like 96. So that's a graphic novel.
Yeah,
that's a little bit longer than. So I'm a big fan of European comics. Mm-hmm. Because European comics are crushing it. American comics are eating it. Europe has had that format for a long time, right? They don't release comics as often, but when they do, it's a big event. It's in a big deluxe hardcover. It's beautiful. They make sure that it's a longer page count, and it feels like a beginning, middle, and end story. That's been the way it is. And manga, of course, that's kind of a feedback loop there. French artists are big fans of manga. Manga artists are big fans of French comics, and it's kind of a feedback loop there. So what we're really witnessing also, as I pointed out before, is America was way too slow on the draw with graphic novels and adapting to the fact that issue by issue comics are kind of just for collectors now. Like they're not really a mass market concern. You should have transitioned to graphic novels a long time ago. And as I pointed out in videos in the past, one of the people to blow the whistle on this was Stan Lee.
Yeah.
The entire industry ignored Stan Lee in the late 70s, early 80s when he's like, hey, guys, Europe, Japan, they're doing this graphic novel thing. We should probably get on that. And Marvel was like, oh, shut up, Stan. We'll give you Epic Illustrated and see if you just go away, right? He was ahead of his time.
Right.
He was ahead of his time. He understood where it needed to go. Big, deluxe format, larger page count, higher quality. And I feel like this Iron Age, whatever you want to call it, is really the market correcting itself.
I agree. 100%. That's putting it perfectly.
How slowly that happens or how quickly depends on how good the stuff is.
I agree with that. You put that perfectly. I believe that's exactly what it is. What you're seeing out of this is they never adjusted to the times. They never adjusted to the technology. They wanted to keep doing their thing and how they had been doing it for a very long time. All we did, hell, I can speak for myself in it. That's quite literally all I did with Rippaverse, right? It was like, okay, I'm doing all this market research. I'm looking at how these comics are being put out. I looked at the direct market. I'm like, that shit makes no fucking sense. There's no way that any of these publishers are making money off of their publication. It has to be a loss leader for them because there's no way that you have three people getting their hands that have to get paid off of this $5 comic between the publisher, the distributor, as well as the retailer. There's no way that they're able to survive on that alone. And then I started doing research, and I'm like, wait a minute. Pretty much forever, even DC within the first fucking 10 years, they had a parent company, right? Somebody had to be there alongside them in the event that they weren't making money. We all know the problems that Marvel had in the late 90s. I was actually talking to Palmiotti about this the other day, about going into the late 90s, and people forget this. These motherfuckers going with bankrupt like in the late 90s. Marvel did. That was all in our lifetimes. That was not that long ago.
Yeah, I actually have. It was funny. I was ratzing through some old magazines of mine. I have the issue of Wizard magazine that was all about the Marvel bankruptcy, which is wild.
That's awesome.
From 1997, I
Yeah.
actually have that issue. And it's funny because, contrary to what you would think, they didn't devote a big article to it. It's like one page. It's like, oh yeah, hey, by the way, the biggest comic company of the last like 10 years is that they
About
might
to go under.
Like what? They might get bought by Michael Jackson, which almost happened.
Should've
by
happened.
the way,
Yeah.
should have happened. Probably with hindsight, should have happened. Michael Jackson would still be with us, and Marvel Comics would be publishing good superhero books.
Yeah, and that's exactly all that we're doing. It's a market correction, man. It is us saying, hey, that doesn't make any sense. I don't know why anybody's doing it. Let's do it in a way that does seem to catch up with the times, utilizes the technology as a core part of what it is that they do because it is available to us, being able to maximize our profit in terms of its margins, and because we're getting most of the money, which means our creatives are getting paid. We're not having dealing with these issues of hashtag comics broke me and all this other shit, because we have a model that makes far more sense than whatever the hell the mainstream has been doing. And it's funny, again, when talking with Dan, even in the music industry, because I've experienced it, you've been in the music industry as well, and you've experienced this. It's a similar thing in a sense where I can't even say it talking off the ledge, because it's not really a ledge. It's like you will have people that are so accustomed to the standard, what has been deemed as the standard, and really anybody that steps outside of that, it's almost heresy, and they, again, do not feel like that's the legitimate way of going through things. I look at like what we did with ISOM, right? First one, right? $3.7 fucking million. And there'll be someone that'll be like, well, because you didn't like pimp your shit out to stores, then it wasn't a legitimate effort. And I'm like, the fuck? We sold over.
Have you been in a comic store?
If one's still around you.
In the last 10 years. Jesus Christ. Like the 5 remaining comic stores in the country are all like the size of a closet, for Christ's sake. Like
their comic spotty is for sure.
Like, there's not enough room to change your pants in these stores. And yeah, if you're not sold there, you're not legitimate. What are you talking about? Meanwhile, my publisher, they're owned by a big like company. My Ghost of the Badlands will at least be available.
Yeah,
it'll at least be available in Barnes and Noble, Walmart, all the big ones, because of the parent publisher, right? It'll be available. They probably won't order it.
You're right.
You could special order it, right? So, but it won't be day one in comic stores.
Yeah.
So it doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's not legitimate. Like you're not doing things the proper way. And I've watched people go broke, especially in music, doing things the way that everybody instructed that they were supposed to do it. Not because it made sense. It's just because, well, that's what we're all doing. I mean, I remember with our band, both of them. Hell, that's the reason why I left Fire from the Gods. I left that band specifically because they wanted to go the route of the nonstop touring in front of 12 people without us having the foundation. And I was like, guys, that makes no sense. Why would we do that? Like, why on earth would we fucking do that, right? But you're gonna get people that
you have to tour your butt off nowadays, because that's
the only way you make money.
Yeah,
you're not making money from the record. 100%. You're not gonna make. Again, that speaks to the problem, right? That speaks to the problem with the standard. Something that we were talking about on Monday as well. Like, dude,
right. Why do you think Kiss are on their 19,000th farewell tour? Like, I actually saw Kiss on their farewell dates. Unfortunately, Paul Stanley's voice couldn't join them that evening. But yeah,
that's the only way to make money. They're not seeing a fucking dime off of any of that stuff, and that's why I do believe that these standards are largely nonsensical. They are lousy, and it's not really anything that I would.
Dude, it's an industry. A lot of people don't even realize the history of the American comics industry. It started out as a money laundering operation for the mob. This is after Prohibition, and the mobsters are getting drummed out of the core, and they got to have somewhere to put their money that's legit. And so They use these publishing houses. So if you're wondering why these people are so defensive of their jobs, they've literally got like a code of omerta in this industry because it was basically founded by wise guys. It's anything but legit. It's like the least legit in the publishing space, and it's only gotten worse.
That's true. And again, on the tail end, I think a lot of them they're starting to realize that maybe they won't admit it publicly, and I guess their way of admitting it is lashing out at other people. But
I know it's amazing. Am I the only one who finds it hilarious that a bunch of people in an industry literally called comics is physically incapable of taking a joke? Everyone.
The funny books.
I can understand round mockery of their employment situation. God knows there's a lot of material there.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, anything, any joke about for Christ's sake.
Yeah. They get, I mean, they're irate, man. And I guess I get it. You know, you have a way, and maybe you worked so hard to get in the position it is that you're in, only for it to become obsolete. It is what it is. I mean, the best of them will make those adjustments. I think a lot of them have. We've seen a lot of creative people that have been in the mainstream. You know, you mentioned the guys publishing your stuff. Same, they did with Chuck, right? Our man's Chuck Dixon. A guy's been around the block, and he's able to land on his feet despite being in the mainstream industry for as long as he had been. So those that, I mean, to be fair though, you got to have talent to do that, right? That's what I mean when I say there might not be a spot on the other side for a lot of these guys, because it is the sugar daddy. It's like, you can't look. We were talking about it. You know, you get these guys that keep getting work, the Zoe Quinns and the T Franklins, and you know, you're like, who the fuck? Like, oh well, it's the major publishers that, of course, are going to continue to give them work. If they fail
you don't take CM Punk seriously as a writer, no.
If that goes away tomorrow, which we were talking about IDW the other day, and it's like that could go away. I mean, well, we get in this stream, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if we're like IDW's fucking. They've gone completely under.
Well, aren't they? And like, they're literally getting to the point where they're ending the Ninja Turtles book, which was like the only thing that was selling
the Last
for
Ronin.
a long time.
Yeah.
I think they're ending that, and then they've got the Last Ronin 2, which is.
I've heard some things about that. I'm not knowledgeable on it, but I've certainly heard some things about this new.
They replaced Master Splinter with a girl boss, and
that always goes well.
And the girl boss isn't even a character that's supposed to exist, right? I pointed this out in my Last Ronin review. The Last Ronin's awesome, the original one. You should read it if you haven't. Everyone, it's incredible. It's the best.
Was Laird a part of Last Ronin? Do you know?
He was part of the initial drafting of the concept.
Okay.
Back because they came up with this idea back in the late '80s.
Okay.
Kind of like Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird's Ninja Turtles answer to The Dark Knight Returns, basically. And so they came up with the original concept. This is something from their earliest days doing the Ninja Turtles. And he didn't work on it directly this time, but he gave it his blessing. And of course, some of his designs and stuff are in it, and the story and all of that good stuff. But it's great. It's absolutely great. Then they decided to keep doing it. and it's ridiculous too, because it's called The Last Ronin
2, right? And it's like The Last Ronin 2 is like, wait a minute, like, how's there a 2?
It's the last
one.
But now they've brought
it's the second to last.
More turtles. Yeah. Apparently, there's a whole team of Last Ronins now.
Yeah, I don't. But I mean, that's all they got though. Like IDW doesn't have. I mean, they got My Little Pony. They
lost
Transformers.
Right?
Image is doing Transformers right now. I think they may still have some of the Sonic stuff. I'm not sure. Lock and Key.
They're gonna have to like license the crappy Asylum ripoff of the Transformers movie. You ever see Transmorphers? No. Coming to IDW soon.
Coming out, wrote by
write that comic.
Zoe Quinn. But no, like that's so they're on their last leg. We know what Marvel and all those guys are. We know there's a shaking and moving, layoffs, all that good stuff. So look, they know. And a lot of the guys that are creative are going to be able to get on the other side, and they're going to see some success because there's going to be a demand for them. But a lot of these guys have been propped up by effectively what has been a sugar daddy. And if that sugar daddy gets removed, it's going to be a bad time, because definitely after wheelchair on the back spider, gay spider women. T. Franklin's not gonna. She's gonna have a whole lot of jobs waiting for her after Marvel or IDW or whoever some of these major publishers are start to cease to exist, or at minimum shut down some of the publication things that it is that they're doing. It's just not going to be a lot of room for it. Just before we start to get into some of these super chats, I know we got to talk about a lot of stuff which I wanted to, but I got to talk about. I know you released a video talking. The thumbnail with Big Mike was something hilarious. I gotta ask you about kind of the political landscape. I know myself and Blaze, we've talked about this whole thing.
You want to talk about the convalescent president? Yeah, let's go.
let's go. Where's the Razor Fist at with? I mean, it's been an absolute shit show. We know what they're trying to do with Trump. It's been a hilarious backfire. What's happening with Fanny? But
oh man, it's backfiring even harder. If the Supreme Court takes the case, and they did, then it's kind of. I mean, obviously, if they rule in his favor, it's pretty likely they will, because these cases were not built to stick; they were meant to obstruct. Right,
yeah.
So it's very doubtful they will stand up to rigorous legal scrutiny. But weirder things have happened.
True.
Right? But it doesn't look like that's probable. If that happens, it kind of comes tumbling down, and some of the mainstream media are already admitting it. I think the New York Times just put out a piece where they were like, Trump has X number of indictments, and he's going to get away with all of them, right? Like something like that.
Yeah.
I laughed my balls clean off my body. It was hilarious. Yeah, I don't know how he keeps wily coyoting his way out of this, but Trump has a superpower. He just does. I mean, the big lesson from Trump from the beginning has been, for years and years and years, there would be like a BS. I always use the example of Herman Cain, who I liked. I liked Herman Cain a lot. He should have been the front runner. He was the front runner in 2012. And he should have been the presidential candidate. And he was steamrolling everyone for a while there. And then they threw those BS allegations at him. And he folded. And that's what Republicans do, right? When they get hit with stuff like that, they fold. And then 2016 rolled around. And they did the same thing with Trump. Oh, it's grab her by the pussy.
Yeah.
It's the tape, right? And fully expecting, okay, I've seen this movie before. Here's where Trump's going to surrender. And he did not. He tripled down. He went, he went in on the next debate, and you're going to be in jail, right? He went, and that's one of the reasons he won. It's one of the, that honestly is all Trump figured out. He's just like, so wait a minute. If you refuse to participate in the cancellation, you can never technically be canceled. Great. Awesome. Sweet. He cracked the Omega code like Kirk Cameron. It was incredible. So, yeah, that's again, even if people out there don't like Trump for one reason or another, he's done two really big things. He showed that cancel culture is a participation sport, first and foremost. He exposed that, took that mask clean off. And then the second thing he did was he abrates all of these open wounds of the establishment, such that the mono party, the fact that Republicans and Democrats have basically been hand-jiving each other for decades, really since the inception of both of these parties, all of these things, he's basically exposed that because they can't help but go mask off and go after him because he irritates them so much. Yeah. He could do nothing. He could sit around and do crossword puzzles in the White House all day long just by being Donald Trump. They could not help but take the mask off. And that is a resplendent gift. I got to be honest. That's a great gift without even really doing anything except being big and orange.
Yeah. So what do you think about, and by the way, I guess this will answer my question. You dropped again, it was not too long ago, this hilarious video about is old Michelle Obama gonna run. So what conclusion did you come to?
I think it's more likely if she's going to run. Now, I've heard there's, James O'Keefe did a video. They apparently told him she has no interest in running. I don't know. We heard that about a lot of people. We heard that about Obama before he ran in 2008. So I don't put too much stock in that. I think she's definitely on the short list. She's polling above everybody. She's polling above the vice president of the United States right now. She's polling above the the closest non-incumbent candidate on the Democratic side to Michelle Obama in terms of approval is Hillary Clinton. 12 points, and that's not happening. That's not happening. So, yeah, obviously she's on the short list, but I have a feeling she's looking more toward 2028 because if you look at it from her perspective, you can jump in right now and you inherit this DNC drama of succession that would happen. Plus, you have to deal with the electoral headwinds of the fact that Biden has basically been dropping turds in his britches for 4 years and a massive mess because, ironically, she's listening to Michelle Obama's husband. But, because he's essentially still the president of the United States. So she can inherit all of that mess, or she can just sort of wait for the dust to settle. And in 2028, she can run against both parties if she wants to, right? She can run against the guy who came before her, regardless of what party they belong to. If it's Biden, she gets to say, oh, we need new, fresh leadership, not old men.
Yeah.
If it's Trump, I said in my video, why elect a leathery old orange dude when you can elect a leathery old black dude? So that's kind of where we're at, honestly. She's in the catbird seat. She can do either of those things. So I think 2028 is more like.
Cool. That makes sense. Oh, no, it's fucking hilarious. So, yeah, I had to get your thoughts on it. I saw that video this morning. I was like, the thumbnail was that was rock solid, man. Shout out to
Blue 42. Height.
That was top notch. So I had to ask you about that. Okay. Let me go through some of these super chats now that we have gone through much of the show. Darth Ghostface with a 5 says, any word when the Yaira #1 campaign will start? We got some announcements on the way. I'll say that much. It's soon. That much I can't say. Grundy Peebo with a 5 says, hey, Razor, was excited to tell you that I got tickets to see Alice Cooper in Austin this September.
Very cool. I put out a career retrospective on Alice Cooper a couple of months ago.
Nice. So my favorite song by far has to be Roses on White Lace.
Oh, what a banger, dude. My when I was in a hardcore band, we covered that.
Oh, nice.
And we get to play it at Cooperstown. He wasn't there though. Cooperstown was his restaurant here in Phoenix.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
They had a stage and everything, and it was at a 9/11 benefit of all things.
Yeah.
So this was back in the mists of antiquity, back when I was a teenager.
Yeah. Bennett with a 5 month speaking of covers says Till I Collapse cover on streaming. Love the song. Yeah, so we did that before we cracked the code on like, hey, this whole streaming and the licensing thing. That's why it never went up for sale. Because that was what we did that in like 2007. No, it might have been 2016 when we did that. I'll look into that. It's something that's still doable right now. Definitely because everything it was a complete cover, everything is original on it that we did. So maybe I'll get with the band and see if that's something that we can put on there. Of course, you can see it on our. That was the first cover that we had ever did. So you can see that over on Backwards' YouTube. Recovery Anonymous with a 5 says, if you guys make a Yaira plushie, I will immediately buy it. Also, will you guys consider making action figures or figurines of characters? That is one of the industries that I've been so humbled by. Y'all remember me talking about this because I was actually trying to get it produced, looking into production and manufacturing, at least in sort of North America. And it's like fucking non-existent. And I've been humbled by that. It's been something that it's been also part of the research trying to even figure out like how the hell did that happen? Because when you really start to get in the nitty gritty of the pricing thing, that's always think why stuff is going to China is the pricing thing. And then I look at the actual pricing and I'm like, well, the amount of money that you spend on a given product to get it there, to get it back, to the States, as far as the time allotted, as well as just boat expenses that come with that, it almost feels like a fucking wash. It's like I can get the damn thing produced here and I'm still going to be spending X amount of money. So it's an industry that I've been humbled on. It has grown. There's been some people putting their feet forward on. It's been some stuff in Mexico. There's some stuff in South America as well. India's trying to get up in the game in manufacture as far as the toy market, but China's like number one right now. I mean, and with everybody, they're producing everybody's toys.
You could always do the real China, Taiwan.
Taiwan, yeah, that's an example. But yeah, I've been humbled by that. Yes, it is something that we have considered, and we still are. We still are considering. We still are having those conversations to try to see how we can realistically do that. So 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser with a 10 says, thanks for having Razor on. Rippaverse, have you heard the new Traveler album? It riffs hard.
I haven't. No, I love that band though. They're freaking boss.
There you go. Razor, well, who is this? Rimdog says with a 20, Razor, I disagree. This is wave 2. He said the first wave was web comics like PvP, Penny Arcade, Schlock Mercenary, breaking the syndicate monopoly in the early aughts. Well, okay. I'll let Razor speak for himself. I could see that, but in the same respects, like comics have, and you would probably agree, largely, it's been one of the markets that have been historically dominated by physical copies, right? Like, and it still is. Still is.
I remember it was a big deal when, didn't they release some of the Penny Arcades physically? I seem to remember having them in the store at some point, and that was a big deal when they did that.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. So even they got into physical publishing at the time. But yeah, the webcomic revolution was a big deal, actually, in the early 2000s and stuff. No, totally. I wouldn't take any of their thunder away from them. I think that was part of it, just a different kind of vibe. Yeah. That was back in the days of dial-up modems.
Oh man. AOL free trials, man.
Yes.
Scorpio with a 20. Appreciate that. No message. GJJ with 11 months becoming an Ultramat. Kick the ladder with $1. Appreciate that. Says a 5 from CJ says looking forward to more books from both of you. Hell, the Iron Age. Shout out CJ, man. Thank you so much. We have Josh with a 10. He says nothing. Maddie with a 5 says shout out to the comic Sex Bot, by Tim Roberts and Matthew K. Fold. Okay, you just shouted them out. We got Lee Kendler with a 5 says the real gatekeepers are the ones who try to discourage you from pursuing your goals. Look, I've been in business for a while, and with everything that I've done that has been outside of the norm, there has been a flock of people that are part of its industry that have tried to talk me off of, again, they say, I keep saying ledge. I'm just using that as a turn of phrase because it's not a ledge.
Yeah, dude. I don't know if we talked about this last time I was on, but I started out in radio and did a little internship, hosted a couple of times, did a little DJ stuff. And then I did internet radio. And the reason I did that is because it's impossible to get into radio, right? Because it's one of those industries, much like comics, where it's like, hey, I'd like to get into radio. Oh, yeah? The first question is, have you ever done radio? It's like, well, no, I'd like to get
I'm trying to get into it, damn it.
It's like, sorry, the first qualification to getting into the radio business is you have to have done radio. You see what's going on here. And there's a lot of industries like that.
Yes.
Movies are like that, right? It's 100% like that. It's who you don't, really. And it's nepotism and job protection and whatever. Comic book industry is exactly the same. And so they're going to invent lots and lots of reasons why you shouldn't be doing what you're doing, but don't listen to what people say. Watch what they do. The reason is constantly ephemeral. It's the end effect that is inviolable. It's always the same. The end result is you go away and they keep their job.
Yeah, that's what they want. They want to talk you out of doing that because, I mean, of course, not folks that are part of the industry, right, and have gone through that machine. They're not going to take kindly to someone, and even if that's not your intent, they're going to look at it as if you're showing them up. By doing something, and even if they might not think that you're going to see success, but just the idea that you might see it is something that they consider a threat, and it's a problem. So, you're going to get anybody that's doing, any entrepreneur will tell you that anytime you do something that is going to be relatively, against the grain, you're going to get those that try to discourage you from doing it. may even purposely give you bad advice. Hell, Rippaverse wouldn't happen. If I was listening to the people that said, don't do it and host your own servers, don't do it. You should be using somebody else's, use another platform or something like that. Why would you handle your own fulfillment? None of this happens, right? What we have right now, what we have this expanding business, does not happen if I did sit there and listen to people that were part of the industry that tried to talk me out of doing it, what it is that I did.
The best advice you can get in any entertainment related industry, right? I always use the example of pro wrestling, right? If you're a pro wrestler and everybody on the roster is wearing black boots and black trunks, what is the best thing you can do? Wear white trunks and white boots, right? Yeah. Be the one guy wearing the white boots and the right trunk. You immediately draw eyes to you. And that is definitely part of your success because your campaign was so different than other people's. That is definitely part of it.
Yeah, 1,000%. Appreciate that, Lee. We got Zion with a 5. Appreciate that super sticker. Says good job, thank you. We got Noose with a 5. Says howdy, Ripper and Razor Fist. Razor, thank you for bestowing upon me the music of Icon and Anthem, my 2 favorite bands ever. God fucking speed. Shout out.
Godspeed.
James Watkins with a 2 says, Razor, please do a Prince retrospective. Oh, that'd be cool.
Hey, I love Prince.
Hey, man. I'm game for that. Dylan with a 2 says, hey, Razor, win Sabaton.
This is just a meme at this point. At some point.
We got James again with a 5 says we need more Roger Cormans in industry. Excuse me, someone who gave new people their chance to shine with no strings attached.
Well, look, if you're that gets me on. If you're an indie movie maker, this influx of Westerns is like manna from heaven, bro, because Westerns don't cost as much to make.
Not at all.
Ask Alec Baldwin. No, they don't.
Well, for him, it cost him a lot.
They really don't, though, normally, under ideal not shooting the cinematographer circumstances. They generally cost less to make because the costumes are pretty normal. You might even have some of that stuff around. And the sets are already up. There's already Western places. You pay a flat fee in some places and you get the film there. So, hey, if you want to make a Western and you're an indie filmmaker, this new influx of Westerns, who knows? You could jump on there, catch a little bit of momentum off of the backs of the Martin Scorseses of the world and such, and maybe you'll make a decent chunk of change. Who knows?
There you go. And that's how, for filmmaking, I've talked about this with Soskas, man. That's how a lot of people have got their breaks as far as making money and making their venture profitable. Films can be extremely profitable. They're not necessarily if you're spending $200+ million on a film that has fucking no chance to make anything near that.
Right.
Yeah, that's difficult, but that's kind of the point.
But
here.
Enough about Eternals.
Exactly. Enough about the Marvels, which, man, miraculously, I've never seen anything like it. Not in my lifetime. A movie losing damn near $500 million is fucking impressive. That is that is impressive. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of money to be made in there, but yeah, you got to get your budgets down. And look, we know that a lot of it's rubbing the elbows with Hollywood, and you look at these films, they don't cost $200 million to make, man. It's some funny money, let's call it that, going on, and you don't have to worry about that if you're doing some independent stuff. So yeah, go for it 1,000%. Mark Hill with a 2 says, have you considered doing a promotion type service? Are you talking about for us or like Ripper? Well, for us, obviously that would come with the publishing, right? The whole point is to give people eyes on the product it is that we're also putting out. That's going to be a major benefit, obviously, being on part of the Ripper network. So I would say that's inherent in working with us. But anything else that's outside of that I'm promoting, I mean, it's not a service that we're getting paid for. I'll retweet somebody. I'll shout out. I'm not getting paid to promote Ghost of the Badlands or anything that Razorfist does. I just like to do it. It's cool. But as far as like a service is concern. Like, yeah, people that are obviously part of our network, people that work with clients, of course, that's the point. We want to make sure we get as many eyes on their project. So yeah, we're game for that. Because we know that can be a hiccup for especially smaller creators that may have an awesome idea, just need some help getting it over the finish line. We got DB with a 2 says EJ Razor favorite Todd McFarlane character. Like, that's obviously the Spawn thing is going to be the easiest fucking. It's a generic.
Oh, dude, coolest character in Spawn though is Redeemer.
Okay,
Hands down.
I can see that for sure, 1000%.
Way the best. I was so pissed that Todd McFarlane collaborated on Soul Calibur 2. He made a new character, Necrid, and he put Spawn in one of the versions. Redeemer was not in it. I was like, oh man,
yeah,
Redeemer any day.
Yeah. Vimarain with a CHF 20 says, always great to see Razor and Ripper side by side, hail to the true comics creators. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Okay, so I got through those. Before we get up out of here, Razor, you got anything on the horizon, things that you want to plug, but other things that you're working on? We do know that, we talked about it a little bit earlier, that George is on the, tail end of finishing up on Ghosts of the Badlands, which is exciting because that means that it's about to get printed, which means that it's going to start getting in our hands. But is there anything else that you're working on as well?
Yeah, what I'm looking to roll out pretty soon here in the next few weeks is a new podcast series where I spotlight projects like this, and I'd love to have you on, by the way, if you want to.
Dude,
it's going to be called Iron Age Attacks.
Oh, say when.
And,
say when.
Right? And it's just to spotlight any independent creator in this space that just isn't not necessarily ideological, right or left or whatever, but just someone not beholden to the traditional system and who isn't checking off ethnicities off a checklist.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
The classic, the original way the comics were made in the independent space. That's what I'm looking to do. And not just comics, but independent filmmakers, anybody in this space. I'd love to talk with them. So that's going to be rolling out probably in the next few weeks.
Hell yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to that. And
of course, Ghost of the Badlands. Sorry, we're looking to do that end of this month, early next month.
Ooh, love to hear it, man. So yeah, man, whatever you need from us, we know I love to have you as a guest, get to shoot shit, talk a little metal, talk a little comics, talk a little bit about whatever. So, whatever you need from us, man, you got a lot of love. Well, we have a lot of love for you and everything that it is that you're doing, man. And I love to see that you guys, that was a massive campaign. And I think it's important that people know the context that if you continue to have that thing live, you probably would have doubled, which goes to even more so show just how thirsty people were for something like that. And to have that successful of a campaign is nothing to sneeze at, man. That shit was crazy, man. So congratulations to both you and George, man, for all the success it is that you guys are seeing, man. And I can't wait for what you have in store. Ghost of the Badlands 2, perhaps. Everything that you got going. But it's been fun to chat with you, bro.
Always, bro. I would love to do it again soon.
Oh, we will. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up for today's show. Of course, forcanonsake.com if you want to continue to listen in on this, maybe while you're driving in the car, it doesn't matter, doing some work, you can have us on in your headphones or whatever. So thank you guys so much for tuning in for this episode of For Canon's Sake. But we got to wrap it up there. We will see you next time. And until next time, y'all be easy. Peace out.
That'll do it for today's episode of For Canon's Sake. Whether you watched us live or listened on wherever you get your podcasts, we appreciate you. Be sure to follow us on all forms of social media and get more information at forcanonsake.com. We'll see you next time, and y'all be easy.